Hey, number ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. Today, I would like to speak a little bit about, or do a reaction, if you will, to a video released by fellow content creator Brad Polumbo. Your surname is Italian, so I'm going to pronounce it right, just so you know. He recently released a video where we have this journalist who apparently goes on an anti-white rant, and then Brad adds, "It's sick." You know what? I'm curious about this. I want to see what he has to say. And usually, one thing that I noticed with Brad is that he tends to have pretty decent commentary, and I've seen him present some base takes. One thing is that politically, just so you know, he presents his positions from a center-right moderate perspective, and I've seen him sort of politically identify himself as an independent. Just so we're clear.
Wake up, white men! What the f is wrong with you?
Oh, he seems stable and normal. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another Breaking Brad video where I react to breaking news and viral moments in short form.
Cool.
Now we're going to check in with Don Lemon, the ex-CNN journalist turned independent media person, kind of. Well, he's not doing well. I really don't know any other way to describe it, but he just did a live stream ranting and raving about white men in a pretty unhinged way, especially given that his husband is in fact a white man. Though
I would like to add one thing. Let me give you a better screen. There you go. I would like to add one thing. When people complain about white men or white people, I'm always confused by it, particularly when they give general statements. Oh, white people do this. Does that include white Americans from all states, religious and non-religious, political and non-political, white Europeans, Northern Europeans, Scandinavians, Nordic people, English, Scottish, are the Irish included? What about Italians, French? What about a German? Belgium, someone in Belgium, does that include someone in Holland? It's like, I'm so confused by general statements about white people do this or white people think that. As I often say, monolithic thinking is the bane of our society.
so honestly, it would be kind of diabolical regardless.
Yeah.
I guess let's just hop into the first clip,
Please.
so you can see for yourself what's going on with Don here.
Men who look like you, men who vote like you, and men who sound like you. White men, something is broken. Something is cracked deep inside when so many of you believe the answer to fear, to loss, to change is violence.
I know, man. I can see your face. We're all thinking it right now, right? You want to tell that to Irina on the train?
Are you listening to me? I hope I'm saying it loud enough for the people in the back.
I mean, I'm listening to you. I'm not sure you're really making much sense, Don, but I am listening. Again, my first question that comes to mind is your husband listening? Does he realize that you speak about his demographic in this kind of totalizing and discriminatory way? I mean, so this live
just say it, Brad. Racist way. It's racism. That's what it is.
Stream came after another shooting that was, yes, committed by a white man. But is there really, and I guess this is the heart of the issue I have with this kind of commentary from left-wing identitarian types, is there any other demographic group of people you would speak about like this, that you would so casually, so flippantly like collectivize and demonize because of the actions of a few?
Very intelligent point. Very well said. Absolutely. No, they won't. They only do it with white people. And the reason why they only do it with white people is because first is part of their agenda in propagandistic ways. They're trying to demonize because white people are the oppressor and POC is the oppressed. But also they are anti-white. And unfortunately, in the system we inhabit, fostered by social media, some corporations, and AI, advanced language models, anti-white racism is the only form of racism they can get away with it. Because if someone said what he just said and swapped the word white with any person of color of any ethnic group, demonetized immediately. You would lose your career. It would be over. But he gets away with it. And that's the problem.
I speak out about that across the board. I don't like it when like some Republican types will see a number of transgender identifying shooters and be like, trans people are a threat. No, like you have to look at individuals, and the fact that there are a few of this group or a few of that group that do something does not give you cause to stigmatize or demonize an entire demographic group of people.
Okay, yes, that's a good point, and it's a moderate point, but I want to add to it. So I'm not necessarily disagreeing with him. I'm a moderate too. But one thing I do wish to add to this is that we do, however, have to talk about, apart from just single individuals, we also have to talk about ideologies. And I think he would agree with me on this. Because if you just focus on the single individual and you see, look, there are white men that did this, there are 3 transgender people that did this, this guy was gay, this guy was black, this other thing. So if you do that and you only look at the individual case by case, what you end up doing is that, yes, that individual will be punished as it should be, which is great, but then you might miss the patterns, the systematic patterns that can happen, and we know that happen. So if ideologies are not addressed at the same time as looking at the individual, then it will continue to happen, and more of this insanity will pop up. And once again, it's not a correction, it's an expansion to his point, because his point is generally correct. And once again, I do believe that there are people that have gender dysphoria, they are transgender, and they wouldn't hurt a fly. So including them with the crazy trans activists that do wish to hurt people, it's not fair. However, we do need to look into the ideology, because the ideology which is spread through social media, activist groups, activist cells, Antifa, universities, if that's not fixed, more and more of these people that are exposed to this type of propaganda will flip. And they will get radicalized and they will become a problem. And so it's also understandable why people can start to not feel comfortable near some people, because they're like, wait, but are you one of the crazy ones? Are you one of the people that laughed at Charlie Kirk's assassination? Like, we've seen it happen. It is, unfortunately, an ideological problem, and it's part of the substrata that we need to address. So I agree with his general point, but if we don't do something about the ideology, it will continue to happen and it will become even a greater problem.
Especially because in this case, I mean, you're talking about tens and tens and tens of millions of white men and a handful that do crazy acts. Like,
exactly.
I just don't accept the idea that there's something up with white men because some few individuals do depraved and psychotic stuff. And I really, listen, I'm an individualist. I don't believe in identity politics. Mm-hmm. I don't even want to play this game of like, well, what demographic group is most dangerous in America? But if we're looking at crime statistics, it's not going to be white men, Don. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's one other thing. The people tell you statistics and data is racist. No, the interpretation of some data may be racist if a racist reads the data, but the data itself is neutral because the data is truth. So the truth cannot be racist. The truth is true. Full stop. So once we analyze patterns, we have to, of course, double check and make sure that that the samples that have been collected and the data analysis is proper from a methodological standpoint, because oftentimes, and this happens a lot in sociology, by the way, and it's used by a lot of courses, including feminists, what they do is that they will skew the data because they change the parameters in order for the study to represent the preconceived ideas that they had. The bias is enormous, which is why some people have been presenting this idea of, oh, it's mostly right-wing white men that cause acts of political violence, but we need to look at the methodology of those studies because it's very easy to make it look like that if you change the parameters. I'll make a dedicated video on that because I do intend of reviewing that data set specifically. Consider when you have a smaller group, but a higher number of individuals in that group that commit acts of violence, that's concerning. It doesn't mean that I'm going to do racial profiling on anyone. I don't do that. But it does mean that if we have to analyze the data, you have a little bit of a weak spot there when you tell me a white man, there is a problem with white men. And once again, it's racist anyways. It's a racist position to have. It's anti-white, and that already would be enough. Like, I know that he's deeper than that. He will analyze several layers of this. But to be fair, we already own them at the base layer.
Okay, again, I don't care. I treat everyone as an individual, and I don't blame anyone for the actions or attitudes or behavior of people that look like them, like you apparently do, Don.
Exactly.
Because that's sick. But if you were even going to play this game, you're not even picking the most dangerous demographic group, statistically speaking.
Absolutely.
Okay? So I just
Absolutely.
think it's ridiculous. I really think it's bizarre how the people who are like explicitly anti-white seem to have a pattern of always having a white spouse or partner. Like Don Lemon's husband is a white man. And it's like, what does that kind of say maybe about their psychology or what they're
Mm,
into? And then where is the dignity from the spouse to be like, hey,
yeah.
Don, take that video down. What are you doing? Why are you speaking about people like me like that? Come on, get a grip.
You know, I think you think like that, Brad, because you're a decent human being. Unfortunately, there are a lot of white people that have been convinced to self loathe, which to me is pathetic. Because when a non white hates white people, it's racism. Just like when white people hate non whites, it's racism. But when white people hate themselves, it's not racism technically, but it is pathetic. And this self-loathing, a white guilt, I need to stand up during a freaking university class and apologize to people who are not white for freaking colonialism and chattel slavery. You're out of your mind. Never in a million years. I didn't do anything. Neither did my ancestors. I'm from freaking Sicily. Why on earth? But even if I was from a specific nation, I don't know, British Empire, whatnot, who cares? I didn't do it. Even if my grandfather did it, it wouldn't matter. Sins of the fathers? Anti-white scum.
Seriously, if you had any guts, you had any chutzpah at all, you would do that. But apparently he doesn't. Let me know what you guys think. Because
That's what I
are
think.
you even surprised by this from Don Lemon? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed while you're at it. The like button, yada yada yada. Because this also feels to me like a plea for relevancy. Don Lemon, he does have a lot of subscribers, but he misses his perch on CNN where he was kind of a big part of the national discourse. And I'm sure he's making decent money on his independent media stuff, but he really only gets noticed when he goes and says something crazy like this. And I
Okay.
think that's the point. He does a live stream. I think the title was Dear White Men or something like that. I think he knows exactly what he's doing,
Yeah.
and he's just attention seeking and trying to be inflammatory. Maybe I'm a little bit a part of the problem because I just can't resist a good bit of Delulu from some of these types. And here I am chiming in on it and drawing more attention to it. But I do think it's still fair to call that out for what it is. He's rage baiting. He is intentionally being antagonistic in a way that I think he would really condemn people on the right for doing about other demographic groups of people. And you either have standards or you don't. If you have double standards, you really don't have any standards at all. And I
He's
think
right.
it's clear that Don Lemon falls into that category
Yeah.
at this point. But there is more from this stream that I want to go over. Here's a second clip where he rants in a slightly different way about the most evil group of people
Let's
ever
go.
in existence, of course, white men. Let's watch.
Wake up, white men. What the is wrong with you? But you're too dumb to even realize that
My gosh.
because you're lazy and sitting in front of a computer or a phone and you're
All
just
white
eating
men.
it up. Oh, my God. Look at what they're doing. All of a sudden, my heritage is going to be over. That I want to live in a country where their white kids go to white schools and white people marry each other. What is wrong with that? I want to grow up in the country that my great-grandfather grew up in. That country doesn't exist anymore, asshole.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
He seems like he's fun at parties. I mean, this struck me because, again, not only is he speaking about white men as this big homogenous group of people and villainizing, this huge demographic, he's also kind of shadow boxing with like a caricature or a straw man, right?
Exactly.
Because I'm sure in a country this big, you can find a few crazy people out there, but I really don't think that the complaints of, white men who support MAGA or whatever group he's trying to villainize here can be accurately boiled down to, I want white kids to go to white schools and I want white people to marry other white people. I mean, actually, if you look at it, polling support for interracial marriage is very high. It's just, it seems like he's not really engaging with any meaningful idea. I don't think most people want to roll back integration and go back to segregation.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I'm going to add this. I've always been someone who says, you marry whoever you want. I don't care. If a black man tells me, no, I want to marry a black woman because we share culture, we share an understanding of life, we share common experience, we share a community, I don't see anything wrong with that. When I see a black man like him who shits on white people race in a racist manner, I have a problem with him. But if some black man tells me that, you think I'm going to go, no, you need to marry a white woman, otherwise, what the heck? So likewise, since we need to treat everyone equally, that's the idea, right? Then if I see a white man who says, no, I want to marry a white woman from the same, I don't know, even from the same freaking neighborhood, from the same city, because we share an identity, we share a religion, we share a way to look at life, and if falls, and he has that kind of idea, personally, I don't have a problem with that either. To me, it feels similar but deeper than the idea of you having a type. If you like ginger hair or blondies or a brunette, or maybe you're into an Asian woman or a man, or maybe you like an African American, who cares? It's your type. I'm not going to discuss that because, as the Romans said, de gustibus non disputandum est. A little Latin for you today. Then if you don't have a problem with people having a type, then you shouldn't have a problem with people also having a cultural type, simply because at the end of the day, you choose who you want to marry. So what's wrong with that? Now, given there are some extremists, but the way he described it was specifically broad. And I personally don't like that kind of approach. But you find them on both sides. Right? And so we're talking about the supremacy idea. But black supremacy is a thing, just like white supremacy is a thing. And so what that means is that, yeah, if you go into the supremacy module, regardless of which side thinks they're superior, genetically and whatnot, then I don't subscribe to those ideas. I think you could say it because freedom of speech, but I would disagree with you. But what I hate is that this guy is instead, basically, as Brad correctly said, he's taking all white men, putting them in this monolith, and being extremely derogatory and racist in doing so. He is the very thing that he appears to be calling out. He is the racist. He is the problem.
That's not why they reject your political agenda, Don. These
Yeah.
like white men that he's so upset about. And to the extent they want like in America that, oh, like where my grandfather grew up in,
That's fine.
I think they're probably thinking about the financial prospects
Yeah.
or the American dream. And to be
safety.
honest, they may have a rose-colored recollection or a
Mhm.
misunderstanding of what the struggles were really like in the 50s or 60s,
Mhm.
but they have this idea that people could own a home,
Single
go on
income.
2 vacations a year, single family household, support 2 or 3 kids, send your kids to college, and people could afford the American dream. And when they're pining for like, oh, the life my grandfather had, I think that's what they are feeling, or at least most of them. They're not saying they want the different color watercolor, the different racialized water fountains again.
Yeah,
And it just feels like such a caricature.
It
You are
is.
not only crapping on an entire demographic group of people in a way that doesn't make sense because they all have different views and perspectives. Like a lot of them actually agree with your political views and voted for your candidate,
Mhm.
but then you're also doing so in a way that feels like you're not even trying to actually understand what their perspective is or what they care about, and you're just demonizing them all as if like the craziest person on 4chan is somehow representative of all white men who vote for MAGA or whatever. Again, it's just nasty and toxic. It's like I'm imagining the CNN producers seeing this clip and I'll be like, gosh, glad he's not our problem anymore, because imagine if he was still saying this kind of crap on our airwaves.
They probably agree with him, though. Still understanding the PR disaster this would have been, but they would probably agree with him. Anyways, thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. Give you a like, and thank you so much. If you guys liked what you saw, you should go check out his channel if you want to hear people with different opinions, since at the end of the day, this is where we are, right? This is the problem right now. People are not willing to listen to someone else's perspective, and the moment that they see that someone says, maybe he said today a lot of things you agreed with, but perhaps he said things you disagreed with, and what's the big deal with that? That's where discourse and the civil discussion is supposed to take place. So if there is something he said that you disagree with, that's okay. It doesn't mean, oh no, how dare you show what he said because I disagree with it, unsubscribe to everyone, dislike, and why? What? But that's where we are, unfortunately, particularly with the radical left. And I will say it because I tell it for what it is. It is the radical left that does not want to have any discourse. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I will not have any discussion with the radical left. I'll have discussions with centrists. I'll have discussions with right-wingers. I'll have discussions with moderately left-leaning people. But the radical left, you shot the guy that was open to have a discussion with you. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm done with that. But thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. Have a good one.